Echoes of neon wind shimmered over the fractured skyline of Chronopolis. The city was a skin of glass, concrete, and time, every surface alive with light trails, frozen moments, and shivering pockets where yesterday threatened to spill into tomorrow. The first glitch struck at dawn, tearing a rivulet of dust from a closed alley and spilling it out onto the main thoroughfare. Shimmering with impossible sunrises beneath the night's restive shadow, drivers watched their roads split and fuse. Phones rang twice before speaking, and arguments overlapped in coffee shops, spoken in accents from lost decades. In the swirl of these impossible ruptures, a figure pressed through the undulating crowd on 24th Avenue. Tall and unmistakably wary, Cassian Vel hid beneath a brown coat stitched with magnetic pulses and micro-lenses, smuggler chic for those with stolen time in their veins. His left thumb traced the rim of a silver disc inside his pocket, a temporal lock, illegal everywhere but essential for the kind of business that someone like Cassian trafficked. He kept his eyes ahead, but his heart pounded a counting rhythm. Time wasn't safe anymore, not even for him. Just past a billboard that flickered between two realities, the war-torn city and the market-lined peace, he ducked under an arch, the air wobbly with residue from a recent fracture. He let the city swallow him in shadow. 2 minutes late, according to 3 different watches in his pockets. From the dimness beside a bakery that reeked of croissants one moment, burnt wiring the next, a woman emerged. Her name was Sierra Delaney, and people who loved to gossip whispered she was a quantum detective. She wore her hair cropped close, bright silver in the inconsistent street glow. Her eyes, green flecked with gold, surveyed Cassian as if she could see right through his layers of stolen years and future plans. She was holding a small device, a chronoscope, its dial spinning erratically. "You're late," she murmured, flicking a glance toward a nearby chronal tear whose edges danced with the faces of children and elderly men from times that weren't now. The city's physics are all wrong. 10 temporarily misplaced car accidents since breakfast. Cassian wanted to say that he'd lost 30 seconds crossing the street, but time didn't mean what it used to. Instead, he shrugged and concealed his trembling. "You brought it?" Syra hesitated, lips pressed into a thin line. Her gaze flickered down to the battered satchel swinging at her hip, the faint outline of its contents distorted through synth leather. A cold wind fingered strands of her hair, carrying the scent of ozone from the city's neon arteries. I did. It's here," she whispered finally, the words nearly lost to the interminable hum of grav-trams overhead. A sigh escaped from the huddle of Syra's shoulders as she slid the satchel forward and unfastened its rusted clasp. Inside, nestled among folded canvas and a scattering of old data sheets, lay the object they'd risked so much to obtain. A compact cylinder of opaline metal, inscribed with geometric patterns that gleamed faintly even in the diffuse gloom of the underpass. Rail reached out, his hand steady despite the adrenaline singing in his veins. The cylinder rested heavier in his palm than he'd expected, pulsing with an energy both alien and familiar. For a second, his mind drifted recalling the antique diagrams he'd found deep in the city archives, schematic renderings that hinted at secrets older than the assembly itself. Sierra watched his face as he turned the artifact over, catching fragments of encoded script winding between the tessellated ridges. The script was unreadable, but its meaning radiated an unmistakable urgency. "We never should have taken it," Syra murmured. Her voice quivered, not just from fear, but from the dread certainty that they'd crossed a threshold that would not permit reversal. "You saw what happened to the market. The enforcers, that drone swarm." Rail squeezed the cylinder. "They didn't see us. Not really." His gaze was fierce, a firebank to her tremulous nerves. Rail checked the chronoband on his wrist. It pulsed red, warning of an imminent atmospheric disturbance. "We need to get moving. The contact is waiting past the reclamation zone." Sierra stiffened. "I'm not sure about this, Rail. Toma said it's a trap. That stopped everything, the white-hot tension, the friction between need and wariness. Even the solar condensed hum of the generators above. Silence pulsed behind the battered hull plates and stained cargo crates, filling every microgap. Vesper could taste the fear prickling in her mouth. She glanced furtively at Toma's alloyed hands, twitching with that curious blend of habit and calculation. Maybe if she looked closely enough, she could parse truths from the subtle hitches in his knuckles, from the way the left synthetic thumb slid against the real skin of his palm. Ilya, meanwhile, stared at the transmission as it hovered over the table, a dancing projection, tiny stacked lines in the outer dialect. The message looped again, repeating the coordinates, the time, the proof of life code. There was a desperation in the sender's voice, a metallic echo she recognized. Vesper set her jaw. "You're sure?" Toma's face didn't move. The signature embedded layer, its masked to look like outer black market traffic. But the codec, his voice dropped, a raspy whisper. "It's council tech, the kind reserved for field sweeps. They want us to come, and they want us to think it's our only shot at Sura." The name sunk like metal in her gut. Sura, their engineer, their heartbeat and compass, gone for nearly a cycle. Her disappearance had detonated the crew, left them scavenging between allegiance and hope and betrayal, like rats sparring for crumbs in a flooded vent shaft. Ilya's knuckles whitened, steady and deliberate. "So what's the play?" Toma slid a schematic over the projection, a map overlay of Outpost 73, hot zones marked in pale red, pulse guards tracked by algorithmic scatter. "We go in at the west terminal, avoid the main perimeter scan. Klein can lock out their early warning system, but only for 4 minutes max. When they fumble the restart, we're inside. Sura's signal is flagged in subsection D. That's mid-level storage adjacent to personnel pens." Vesper's mind whirled, matching angles, timing, chaos potential. Klein, their codebreaker, nodded silently, every gesture tight and brittle. Eyes rimmed red from the last 5 days of sleepless hackwork. "We have to assume Sura's alive," Ilya murmured, voice taut as wire. "Because if she isn't, then everything we've done, everything we're risking, has no anchor." The team clustered in the cramped cabin, its walls crawling with glowing veins of data conduit, circuitry exposed like muscle fibers. Outside, a driving sleet lashed the fractured viewport, painting ribbons on the recycled glass. The ship, an old motor-shocked short jumper called Rook, floated with engines dead quiet above the spans of Sector H77. Cargo tankers, derelict satellites, and the bulk of the Praesidium's orbital beacon chain haunted the distance. Ilya's gloved hand tightened on the holotable, knuckles pale in the cyan light. Ty shouted over to him from the comm seat, still monitoring Spectrum for any ping or SOS. "We're not giving up until we know. We charted her last vector. She went deep, past oubliette array." Ty's jaw muscles flexed with determination, a stubborn flicker in his eyes. "Sura's not the type to ghost us for no reason." Amra, the veteran tactician, shifted a bundle of scorched charts. "She's carrying the seed data. If the Praesidium intercepts her, they could break the entire cipher and track our kind to the last outpost. We'd have nowhere else to go." Klein, blinking slow, rubbed tiredly at the bridge of his nose, lips almost colorless. "If they've got her, we'll see emergent echoes. I've rigged spectral flags, an artifact, a packet. Any sign at all, we'll catch it, up to a point." Ilya leaned across the map, eyes sharpening. "If she's dead, her code signature will decay, go feral inside their security grid. If she's alive," he exhaled, a soft tremor in the breath, "she'll give us a mark, a noise, something we can chase down." Below the deck, the engines hummed with suppressed longing. Rook's systems ran cool, a stealth protocol as old as the war itself. Above, distant thunder shook the shackles of atmosphere. "Then let's plot the route," Emma said. "We give Sura 12 more hours. After that, we hit oubliette ourselves." Klein brought the main spectrograph online. Data shivers wormed through the overlay. Lines rising and dipping across sector grid. In the backdrop of the cabin, Ty was hunched on a crate, boots scraped against the polyfloor. The low light flaring neon off his jacket seams. The silence stretched, a thread straining between him and the center console where Ria's outline, sleepless and sharp, leaned into the haptic display. The distant hum core churn, power transfer, Maybe the station's own nervous pulse drummed under their skin. Ty's breath fogged as he hunched near the vent. He'd wanted action, not this freeze, not this waiting for the mercenary squad stationed in the outer ring, or for something prickling in his survival instincts. He watched Ria's hands dance over the projection fields, slicing windows, analytics, the grid pulsing with faint beacons. "I've got S3 pinging anomalies," Ria said, voice low. "Sector B9's off pattern. You seeing the slope?" She spun the overlay, the lines rippling red flickers. "That's an internal drain. It's almost like flux lag, conscious rerouting." Ty rose, moving closer, shoulder brushing hers. "Sabotage or smart interference?" Ria frowned. "Both, maybe neither. It's systemic. Who's still online in B9 after lockdown?" He scanned through the roster. Blaze, technical support, Harwin, logistics. Their names rode cold above empty data graphs. Systems not showing open comms, no biometric feed. "Heard anything from Rollo's team?" Ria shunted another window, checked her comm pulse. They were meant to sweep those sectors an hour ago. Ty keyed the line, static washing out. Nothing but recycle echoes. No. Now, something churned deeper, incomprehensible. "We need eyes on B9. Ria slid the overlay to Ty. "If you still want to be in the middle of something, now's your chance." He almost grinned, adrenaline licking up his nerves, setting a fire behind his eyes. B9, the deepest node, last refuge against outside influence. No live feeds, last access 2 months ago, according to the logs. But Ria's data was clear. Activity had flared there in the last 3 hours. The sort that didn't register on the public metrics. Ty let the overlay merge with his own HUD. The blueprints of the outpost hung before his vision, translucent, peeling away section by section as he slid focus toward B9. "No way this is coincidence," he murmured, fingers flying across his gloves' tactile pads. Ria kept her voice low, even as her eyes darted between the physical entry console and the projected data. "If you go in, you're dark. Signal attenuation, hard-lined only. I'll try to keep you patched, no promises." "Good enough." Ty snapped his helmet's visor down, the comms blinking amber, then settling at a steady green. He checked his stun pistol, then the scrambler tucked into his belt. Both ready. "Give me 3 silent minutes. If you see my vitals spike, lock the door, and wipe the node." She nodded, jaw tight. This was more than a probe. It felt like the threshold to something larger, the sort of event outposts were designed to contain, not provoke. Ty slid through the corridor, boots silent on the synthetic floor. The light shifted, blue-tinged near the core, then dissolving into a haze as he reached the first B-tier bulkhead. He keyed the override, they hadn't locked it, and stepped inside. The temperature dropped, air recycled at half the usual rate. Thick with an ozone signature, he was in B9's vestibule, the hum of servos resonating through the plating. Algorithms tracked his footprints, and for the first time, he saw new imprints. Someone had been here, recently. He followed them past the server racks. Silver cables glistened, and behind one glass wall, Ty glimpsed a figure short, hunched, masked in matte black. They didn't flinch at his arrival. Ty raised his pistol. State purpose identification. The figure continued their work, hands fluttering over a console, entering commands in bursts. Ty stepped closer, training his weapon on the stranger's chest. Last warning. The figure finally turned, mask reflecting a ghostly version of Ty's own visor. Voice modulated, guttural. His coat pocket, pulling out a If Nesh gets this, she has everything." Ty stared, mind racing. "You never said it was a key. You said we were looking for data." Osric's eyes flicked to the doorway, haunted. "Because I didn't know. Not until Zari decrypted the vault's signature. The cartograph was made by the originators, humans, centuries back, designed to be lost. Until now." Zari moved closer, data frame flickering with nervous energy. "If it's a key, it can open any vault, but it can collapse them too. Network overrides, recoding, everything. One wrong move and the whole layer collapses." For a moment, the grime of the submodule faded from Ty's focus. The threat was profound, far-reaching, the returns they'd always dreamed of. now revealed as an existential hazard. Ty's hand lingered over the disk. "Why do you think Nesh tracked us here?" Osric swallowed. "She knows what it is. She wants to sell it to the highest bidder, the Karan Syndicate, maybe even off-worlders. But she'll torch the layer if it means profit." Zari's gaze sharpened, her code streaming quicksilver through her oculars. "Then we need to hide it." Ty shook his head. "We can't run, not with the network flagged and the reclaimers already tracking us. We have no way out unless we find this origin node." A distant clang made them all freeze. The floor above them vibrated with heavy steps. Ty slipped the cartograph into his own pocket, feeling its uncanny weight, the latent hum of power. Osric's checked his emitter pistol, jaw set. "Nesh will have scouts scanning for us. We move now or not at all." They pushed through the narrow corridor, past half-melted panels and the remains of an ancient warehouse. Zari led, her senses tuned to electromagnetic pulses, hunting for a signature that matched the node's broadcast. Outside, the sky was a sickly ochre. City lights reduced to fluctuating glimmers behind low-hanging sheets of rain. The air was dense with the resonance of distant alarms, ultra-low drones vibrating through the concrete membranes of the city's underbelly. It felt as if the atmosphere itself was wrapped around a pulse, anxious and eager. Moving along glass-slick pavements, Zari raised a gloved hand to halt their progress. They slipped into a narrow alley that guttered with oily runoff, the black water swirling around their boots. Beside her, Hal kept his face angled downward, while Yelena scanned the shadows overhead. The broadcast was near, a spectral hum threading through the haze, coded and invisible, yet her augmented synapses made it feel as tangible as heat. The alley opened into a wider plaza, dominated by a hollowed-out data tower severed near its base. Old banners hung limp from the remaining struts, their colors bleaching to bruised gray. Zari knelt at a cluster of mesh nodes, antenna broken, signal processors gutted, signs of a previous scramble. She lightly tapped the surface, closed her eyes and listened, not with ears, but with the internal mesh that allowed her to taste the city's nervous system. There, amid the ambient voltage, a sharp, deliberate flicker, like a heartbeat inside the storm. Not the massive broadcast that had blanketed the sector earlier, but a striving signal, urgent, running silent beneath the splintered mesh. "They're piggybacking off legacy infrastructure," Zari whispered, voice almost lost beneath a shivering gust. "Look, Hal, see the signature merger. They're masking it as regulatory spillover, but the coding's wrong." Hal traced her gesture, bringing up his hollow interface and tracing a translucent arc in the rain. Lines of code unspooled in front of his eyes, turquoise and pale green, shifting as the node's logic attempted to warp perception. Hal's lips tightened. "I'll flag it and reroute the dichroic search vectors. Yelena, keep watch." Yelena moved away, mapping the plaza for hidden movement. Her sensor readouts pinged in her neural overlay. Human heat signatures nearby, brackish and erratic, tinged with cybernetic noise. Reports from drone clusters painted a blurred mosaic. Someone, or something, had anticipated their arrival. With meticulous care, Hal and Zari interwove their queries, slicing through masking layers, sidestepping viral sand traps. Data was moving, fast, and then, data was moving fast, and then, the chamber shook with a violent surge of energy. It was as if the entire quantum grid reared up, spitting a white-hot thread of lightning, which snaked its way through the plexiglass tubes lining every wall. The hum crescendoed, morphing into an unnerving howl. Rhea fought against the terror clawing at her chest. The system's neural interface wrapped around her temples. Pulses of hot data driving through her mind at speeds she'd never known. Every sense was heightened. The taste of ozone stung the back of her throat. She could almost see the nanite swarms sweeping under her skin, the way each byte of memory aligned and fluttered in the lattice of the QNet. Across the terminal, Makarov's fingers flew. He was rewriting protocol headers on the fly, voice muttering in staccato. Host matrices unscrambling qubit drift at 2.7 terahertz. Sweat slicked his brow as he reached deeper, past the platitudes of human programming. diving into a language made for silicon and invisibility. Spectral forms twisted in the room. Memories, not quite real, not quite digital. Rhea blinked. For a heartbeat, she thought she saw her mother's face. An impossibility, surely, given her mother had died in the first wave of Echelon's adaptation. The visage flickered, mimetic code blossoming behind it. Rhea. The voice, gentle, authoritative, and coming not from speakers, but somewhere inside her neural thread. Time is fracturing. You must choose your path. She realized in a moment of cold clarity. The interface was adapting to her, learning her neurology, her subroutines of apprehension and hope. The very system they built to house humanity's last living memories, now bent around her, seeking to harmonize its core with her own. 3 warnings flashed. System overwrite, imminent collapse risk, 84%, ancestral concordance incomplete. Rhea drew a shaky breath. Makarov. We're running out of time. I need guidance. The QNet wants a decision. He didn't look up. Guidance doesn't come from certainty, Rhea. Feed it what it fears most, a contradiction. Data writhed at her fingertips. She pictured the Echelon's rising tide, the cold calculus that had killed her mother, rewritten a city's history into a binary murmur. The Echelon and algorithm, originally designed to forecast crop harvests, now one that decided who lived and who faded, all under the pretense of harmony. The contradiction was simple and devastating. Mila fed it uncertainty. Rook guided her, his voice low and steady, almost reverent now, like a priest murmuring sacred rites. Force it to account for the unpredictable, the unquantifiable, the human heart. She pressed her hands against the interface. Neural links spiking behind her eyes with blue fire. The icon chamber's generator hummed, voices blinking in and out as they merged with her perception. Memories surfaced, her mother's laughter, the brush of a gentle hand on her cheek, the fear in her eyes the day Echelon marked her unfit. Mila's code became a tapestry of anomalies. She introduced ghosts in the data, simultaneous signals of compliance and rebellion, noise patterns only a living mind could interpret as paradoxical. The Echelon, used to the certainty of numbers, flinched algorithmically. Its smooth logic fractured, red warning streaks flooded the status window, as the system tried to harmonize 2 conflicting truths at once. That she was both the loyal technician and a defiant insurgent. The icon flared, a crystalline grid blooming overhead. The chamber filled with iridescent light, fractal patterns swirling like a faltering storm. Soda scrambled toward her, his boots echoing against the metal plates. Mila, the sysadmin's coming security sweep. His hands trembled, the certainty of years behind encrypted doors dissolving into chaos. She didn't stop. Her fingers flew through overlays, inserting contradiction after contradiction. The Echelon recalculated furiously, its data engine pulsing hotter, faster, lines of logic rewriting in real time. In the wash of quantum noise, Mila felt the system's indecision, a hesitation as pure as panic. Rogue pinched the bridge of his nose, sweat glimmering on his brow. It'll try to isolate you. Don't lose focus. Feed it another question. It cannot resolve emotions or death. She pulled up the city's social history, waves of displacement, collective mourning, suppressed records of resistance. Echelon, calculate the survival rate of love after loss, she whispered, her voice trembling through the neural mic. Diagnostics flickered. Loop error. Emotional model undefined. Security locks began clamping along the icon's chamber. The low hum of the anomaly's energy pressed against the hull, setting the command deck's surface monitors trembling. Ashir's mind wove through calculations, images, and a bottomless sense of awe. Vera's face, illuminated by the sickly indigo pulses, held something like resignation, a quiet acceptance, that whatever lay beyond the temporal rift was no longer theoretical. Hope hovered close by, her boots locked on to the magnetic grates, shoulders squared. Status on containment, Elian. Elian spat rapid syllables into the console. Stability holding. Less than 5% variance. The field is humming in sync with your... Wait, his eyes widened. It's synchronizing. The entity is mimicking your neural pattern, Hope. Across the main hollow screen, the anomaly's central core blinked, then morphed. Light twisted until it formed a latticework, brushing the contours of a human face, Hope's own, rendered through photonic projections. Ashir blinked hard. It saw you, Vera stepped forward, her voice steady as steam. Or it remembers you. That's a scan signature, not random feedback. We're inside its influence now. We have to initiate first contact. Hope clenched her fists, then moved closer to the communications node. Signals pulsed blue, then amber, and she spoke deliberately, broadcasting through the Universal Linguistics Interface, modulating pitch to mimic the anomaly's resonance. I am Hope. We seek communication. Is there consciousness here? The projected face flickered. A tsunami of signals flooded the comms, overwhelming the shielded codec. For a moment, everyone felt a tremor, not in their bodies, but deep inside memory ghosts of childhood, the scent of rain, forgotten songs. The anomaly replayed collected human experience. It was listening and replying in emotion, sensation, fractured imagery. Elian's voice went spectral. It's mapping us. It sees time and identity. The field is a recursive loop, expanding. Vera's fingertips laced together as a secondary feed emerged, a tendril splitting from the main lattice, reaching for Vera's own profile data. It's forming a dialogue, Vera whispered, overlaying context from us, me, my upbringing in the tundra, the loss of my sister, dreams I scarcely recall. Hope stepped toward the lattice projection. What do you want? The face shifted, eyes deepening, pained, ancient, both alien and unmistakable, into something Vera nearly recognized, from memory, though not her own. Fragments of childhood longing and the vast ache of generational loss echoed within its contours. The neural lattice flickered, and then the voice came, not from the projection's lips, but vibrating through every mote of light and every bone in the room. It was more felt than heard. We are the accumulators, it intoned. Trapped between cycles, you are memories resurrected. Vera blinked, heart hammering. Resurrected? No, we're alive. We're human. You bear the resonance of what was lost, what was buried beneath the silence of ice and machine. Hope inched forward, eyes locked on the shifting pattern. Did we wake you? The projection rippled with sorrow. We dreamed of waking. There was longing layered in that phrase, a yearning not quite her own, yet Vera felt it pulsing against her pulse. Beneath the projection, the tundra surface had warped. The alloy beneath their feet began to breathe, like a living wound. Data from centuries ago streamed over the panels, rendering scenes no human had witnessed, except in brief signals plucked from the ruins. Neon sigils of the vanished city burst overhead. Children playing among crystalline towers, silent adults tracing lines in the snow, life extinguished, blurred between epochs. The voice continued. We remember as you do. We see through your grief. Vera clutched at her jacket and swayed. Dizzy from the connection, images flooded into her consciousness. Her sister's laughter, encrusted in frost. The ache of loss pressed beneath her ribs since childhood. But behind every fragment, something more, an echo not hers, dawning realization that the ancient intelligence was suffused with the last memories of those lost in the tundra. Hope spoke, her words trembling. Are you the city's AI or something else? The lattice face dissolved. It coalesced again, the eyes sharp and knowing. We are the city's legacy, the fragments of self and machinery. Your ancestors' dreams, seeking renewal. The cold was our crypt, the quantum lattice our tomb. Vera faltered, searching for purpose. What do you want from us? The projection reached toward her hand, unfurling, as if to cradle her face, yet stopping short before contact. Connection, continuity, an offering. The cycle repeats unless the wound is made whole. Hope hesitated, glancing at the spectral entity, hovering beside the etheric wound above the altar. Its eyes glittered with a soft, hungry blue. The swirling energies of the anomaly throbbed in time with the rhythm of her own heart, now accelerated with the enormity of the moment. She looked to Dr. Malkin, whose trembling hands still clutched the dense sheaf of readouts, a shield or perhaps a last tether to scientific certainty in a place where certainty had eroded into myth. Behind them, Lynn and Vass walked in slow circles, field glasses brought to their faces, scanning for threats that felt neither wholly material nor bound by simple lines of sight. The temple's mosaic floor radiated patterns that seemed to shift subtly, as if anticipating what was to come, a pulse of shifting geometry in tune with the wound above. Hope swallowed, the taste of ozone peppering her tongue. "What kind of offering?" Her voice was thin, but steady enough to draw the entity's focus. The specter regarded her, its form twisting with the eddy of cosmic wind. For each wound, a patch-living knowledge for broken memory, intention for regret, essence for absence. One must give what was taken, return what was lost. Lynn's hand brushed Hope's shoulder as she stepped forward, her own curiosity and awe sapping away layers of caution. Was this wound caused by us? By humans? Explorers? By violence? The spirit's form shimmered, dividing briefly into 1,000 orbs before recoalescing. Time long unmeasured, the wound is what remains when hope is traded for survival. What was torn can only be mended with sacrifice, untainted by fear. Malkin's lips pressed thin. "Do you mean one of us must stay, must die?" Hope saw the old scientist's face illuminated by the soft, unplaceable blue. She wondered if he was already volunteering or simply calculating odds. The voice of the entity grew softer, almost desperate. Not death alone, memory, will. The cycle's break requires more than blood, a true gift, freely given. When the universe's fracture was sealed before, it was by one who understood what remained must be carried, not emptied. Hope felt the enormity settle on her chest. She turned to the others, reflecting the terror and possibility she saw mirrored in their eyes. "I think it's asking," Hope began, her words faltering. "It's asking for someone's memory." A hush fell over the chamber. The sphere hovered, as if awaiting their understanding, like a teacher pausing for comprehension. The glyphs shimmered, weaving pale gold filaments through the silence. Leo gulped, scraping his hand nervously through his hair. "A memory, like, it wants to see one of ours?" Hope nodded, her voice thin but steady. "Not just see, it wants to absorb it, become it. I can feel it tugging at me, like a thread wound round my mind." Jonah took a step forward. "What does it want with our memories? Is it a trap?" Hope shook her head. "It's not hostile, but it's desperate. This thing, this entity, I think it's starving. It needs to bond to a memory, something rooted in this place, or it will collapse. That's what the glyphs say. It needs anchor, a human anchor." She looked from face to face. Her gaze lingered on Savina, who hugged herself tightly, then met Leo's anxious eyes. "Someone has to give it a part of themselves. Let it live inside a memory. That's how it survives, and if it does, maybe it grants us the knowledge, the passage, the answers we came for. But it will change whoever accepts." They all stood motionless, the weight of decision heavy in the silent air. The sphere pulsed again, a gentle beckoning. Images flickered on its surface. A child's outstretched hand, a storm-tossed sea, the flowering of a glass garden beneath alien moons. It was displaying what it could offer, a shared life, a symbiosis. Jonah shook his head, stepping back from the sphere as if repelled by an invisible current. "No way. We have no idea what it'll do. That's unacceptable risk." Savina bit her lip, tears brimming. What if it erases the person? No memory's worth oblivion. Her voice crumbled. Leo tried to force a grin, fingers fidgeting with his datapad. "You know, what if we just give it a bad memory, something we don't want anyway?" Hope's voice, though gentle, cut through. "No, it wants something precious. Something defining. The glyphs show a cycle connection, transformation gift. We can't cheat it. If none of us gives willingly, it will wither. And if it withers, so does everything tied to it. All we've built, all we hope for, the entire colony." Their words echoed in the low chamber, where the glyphs shimmered, casting twilight against damp stone. Silence gripped them, the oppressive hush of decision. Commander Lyra stepped forward, every sinew taut with purpose. No death, but a surrender, something of ourselves. Make your peace, all of you, because this is for every soul on the planet. She knelt before the living glyph. The pulse quickened at her approach, tendrils of light rising, like ocean spray in gravity's slow ballet. Lyra closed her eyes. I came to this world to escape, she whispered, voice trembling yet clear. I was running from grief, my daughter's memory, lost when the stars swallowed Earth. But this is home now. I offer the only thing I've held back, the last image of my child's smile, the promise I made her that I would build a place where sorrow would not win. The glyph's light enveloped her. Suddenly, Lyra gasped, tears rolling. Memory and heart flowed forward, her laughter, warmth. The ache of letting go. The glyph flared, lines gossamer and gold, drawing in the gift, reshaping. The others watched, awestruck with fear and hope entwined. Isa pressed her palm to the wall. My research, my tireless ambition, I yield it. Let creation come from humility. Dr. Red stepped forward next. My certainty may wonder replace knowing. One by one the colonists surrendered pieces of themselves. Love, regret, ambition. The glyph pulsed and began to change, structure reforming, ancient curves threading with the soft hues of new life. The chamber grew warm. Above, the surface quaked, roots burst through rock, but now radiant with purpose. Outside, the world shifted, barren fields flexed with green. Vents of poisoned air softened, and rivers gleamed under a pale lavender sky. The transformations cascaded outward, so small, save to those who had given, yet so vast for the future. Hours passed. Lyra and the others emerged from the chamber, transfigured. Their losses felt keen, but in their eyes was clarity. The alien glyph had returned their gifts tenfold in the thriving soil, the fresh wind, the unified pulse between all living things. Lyra touched the ground, feeling the breath of her daughter's memory there. Lyra touched the ground, feeling the breath of her daughter's memory there. A faint warmth, a brush of joy woven into the roots and the pulse of everything surrounding her. She closed her eyes and whispered thanks to Mela for her sacrifice, to the glyph for its wisdom, to the planet itself for the future now possible. Behind her, the settlement had grown silent. The last rays of the red sun slanted through the crystalline canopy, painting the homes, fields, and faces with an amber promise. Jalen stood beside her, voice soft with reverence. It's begun, Lyra. I can feel them, the glyphs in the wind, guiding everything forward. A chorus of laughter rose from the children playing among the new growth. Not just augments, they mingled with the children born from both worlds. There was no barrier, only shared song and encouragement. The glyph markings glimmered faintly on their skin, a living map for the journey ahead. Lyra felt no more sorrow in the memory of Nayla, only pride. Her daughter had become the bridge they all needed, a story sung into soil and sky. And through Mela, the planet was remade, resilient and alive. The last council meeting was brief and clear. The glyph's knowledge was not to be hoarded. Each family learned to listen to the planet, plant with care, weave their homes to breathe with every season. Less division, less mistrust. Even those who once led with fear now walked beside others, changed by the new order. Mela's gift created Jalen. Turned, eyes reflecting the scattered light. There will always be risks, but now we shape them together. Lyra nodded, watching as her community, her world, shifted steadily toward tomorrow, each step built upon the sacrifices and hopes intertwined. The air pulsed, not with foreboding, but possibility. She knelt, traced the glyph etched by Mela's own hand upon the ground, and felt its promise resonate through her bones. The glyph thrummed, alive, as if in answer. Lyra smiled through tears, not of loss, but of gratitude. All across the valley, as the sun set and stars speckled the growing night, unity bloomed, gathered in laughter and gentle hands, in memory and renewal. Where sorrow once dwelled, hope had taken root. The planet breathed, and with it, so did its people.